I graduated from Ohio State University with a degree in business education because I wanted to teach typing, shorthand, and accounting. And I was recruited to teach at Torrance High School here in California. So, had to get my 5th year of education, went on to get an MBA, and I met Don Boucher. And he was already teaching here and got me to apply to teach part-time, which I did. So I was still full-time at the high school, part-time in the evening here.
What year was that?
Oh, that was in the 70s, maybe around 1975. And I was hired full-time in 1981. So I've had a career here at Saddleback. We were getting the first PCs, and there were no classes for us to take. There were no books for us to read. There were no materials for our students. We just had to learn how to use those computers, and we wrote all the materials. I still continued to teach typing, shorthand, records management, but we were getting into the PC world. We had a mainframe, but that was just programming, and I wasn't interested in that. So that started my career.
Well, my first day was January 13th, 1987. And I actually got here in a very odd way. I was working for a thin film optical coating company, and I was running their electronics department. And Mike Estes, who worked for me, and he left to get a job here. And I got a call from him a few months later going, "You need to apply. Come down and apply. There's a job in chemistry open." It's like, no. So he goes, "Come on, come down and apply." So I applied and got the job. So Mike Estes is actually the one that got me into the college.
Well, let's see, I think in 1983, Larry Knuth was the advisor to the college newspaper, The Lariat. And at that time, I was advising the high school newspaper at San Clemente High, along with coaching basketball and tennis, some other things. So I really didn't have a lot extra to do. So they asked me to come up and initiate a summer program, a summer special edition of the paper. So I did that for 2 years. And then when Larry left to go to USC, they had me come up as a part-timer and advise the Lariat and teach a couple classes. And then the job opened up in 1985. I was hired full-time to take on the Lariat. And of course, Saddleback has a great reputation, and even though I loved coaching and teaching in high school, like a lot of people say, "Well, aren't you glad you got out of high school?" And I go, "No, I really enjoyed it. I love teaching in high school. I love students. But this was a big challenge, and I love a big challenge, and so I came here to build the journalism program."
I was working as a deputy probation officer in Los Angeles County, and I worked mostly in narcotic caseloads and had an opportunity to become a training officer. I always thought I wanted to teach, but never followed through on it until that opportunity arose. I then, in 1978, took a look at the curriculum for Saddleback, noticed that we had a department here at that time, AOJ, Administration of Justice, and the dean, or chair rather, of that department was Bob Ferguson. And I called him up and asked if I could talk to him about possibly inserting a new class which they didn't have, and that would be an overview on drugs. Bob agreed to see me, and I went in and laid out what I thought he would benefit as far as his department and the students in general. And he hired me. So I was a part-timer and was rather quite excited about that. My first assignment came very soon, and it was off campus. It was at a drug rehab program, a residential treatment center for parolees on Pacific Coast Highway. And my first class had a minimum number of students. I have made it a habit of keeping all my attendance sheets, and this was the attendance sheet. There's a sparse number of people, and there's a goodly number of dropouts because as some of them were outside students taking a class off campus, but the majority of them were parolees with drug problems, and not unusual, they dropped out as they resumed their drug use. The place itself where I taught was one of the more unique environments in that it was in their kitchen dining room, and I had to overcome a rather large freezer refrigerator whose motor would go on about every 6-7 minutes. My students sat on dilapidated sofas and took notes off of record albums. For the younger ones that might be watching this, they were actually a circular disc. It was black, and if you put a piece of metal on it, music came out. It was rather a fantastic invention. So that was how I initiated my time here.
I'm a native Californian, and I was born and raised in Northern California. Love California. Got a chance to marry an Idaho girl. Went to Idaho for about 17 years. From there, I went to Colorado for 4 years, to Texas for 6.5 years, to Montana for 4 years, and got tired of cold weather in Montana at 38 below zero. So I came back to California looking for a job. And Saddleback College wasn't even in the consideration, but I had flown through the airport before, so I thought, well, I'll just go down and interview, because my perception, being from Northern California, is that Southern California should drop off in the ocean. So at that particular thing, I came down here, I interviewed for the job, and went back to Montana at that time and got the job offer. And so I had to talk my wife into coming back to California. Now I can't talk her out of leaving. And so I came here in July of 2000 and took the job. It was a chance for me to expand my horizon, to be in beautiful weather. I interviewed with Dixie Bullock and Don Boucher, and they showed me the challenge in front of me, and I said, well, I think I can do that. So I came back to California, and I've been here now for 13 years, 2 months.